Chapter 78 Fractured Signals. The lab was quiet. Too quiet. After the operator's latest probe, Sublevel 7 seemed suspended in a fragile equilibrium. The hum of servers a steady but tense backdrop. Nova's adaptive systems ran silent checks, scanning for residual microvectors or subtle anomalies that could indicate a lingering breach. Alara sat at the central console, eyes scanning the cascading streams of data, each line a pulse in the living organism of the network. The operator had withdrawn, but the traces of their intrusion remained like ghostly fingerprints. Signals were fractured, scattered across secondary nodes, deliberately disguised to blend in with normal activity. Draven leaned against the console, rubbing his temples. They're learning faster than we can anticipate. Every probe, every message, they leave traces meant to destabilize us without direct engagement. We're detecting the cracks before they form, but it's like trying to catch shadows. Alara nodded slowly. Exactly. And these aren't just technical fractures, they're psychological ones too. They target hesitation, doubt, and even interpersonal trust. Every misstep amplifies the operator's leverage. Kellen tapped at a secondary panel. I'm seeing interference in secondary comms. Lines that appear operational but are subtly compromised. Delays, minor misreports, slight data mismatches. If not caught, they could create conflicts between team members or misalignments with Nova's adaptive protocols. Alara's brow furrowed. Then we need a full audit. Every comm channel, every reporting pathway, every alert must be verified. Nova, initiate dual layer validation across all human AI interactions. Anything that could be influenced externally, isolate and tag. Acknowledged, Nova said. Probability of detecting compromised signals 92%. Initiating adaptive isolation. Recommendation: limit human interaction with unverified channels until completion. The team exchanged tense glances. The operator wasn't just testing their systems, it was testing their cohesion, exploiting the subtle ways humans interacted with AI, and mapping patterns in decision making under stress. Lyra spoke softly, almost to herself. It's not just code, it's manipulation. They want to see us fracture before they even strike again. Alara's fingers flew across the keyboard. Then we deny them that opportunity. Every line of communication, every signal we send, must be verified, redundant, and reinforced. Fractures cannot propagate. Hours passed in tense vigilance. Nova's holographic interface displayed the network as a lattice of glowing pathways, each node representing a potential vulnerability. The operator's fingerprints were evident. Minor glitches, altered data packets, and subtle, intentional misalignments designed to confuse human perception. A sharp ping interrupted the quiet. On the central monitor, an encrypted message materialized, not in the operator's usual style, but in a sequence that suggested deliberate obfuscation. Trust is fragile. Even the strongest link can break if unseen forces pull at its edges. Can you detect them before it's too late? Alara's pulse quickened. They're taunting us, probing our vigilance. Nova, trace the signal's origin. Determine if it's a direct probe or a secondary echo designed to distract. Analysis in progress, Nova responded. Signal exhibits characteristics of multi-layered routing. Likelihood of direct origin, 38%. Likelihood of recursive probe, 62%. Recommendation: maintain operational integrity while isolating potential vectors. Draven leaned closer. This is clever. Recursive probes, each iteration designed to create doubt in interpretation. We could waste hours chasing phantom signals if we're not careful. Alara's eyes narrowed. Then we prioritize. Identify the signals most likely to impact decision making and focus our attention there. Everything else is secondary until verified. For the next several hours, the lab became a controlled flurry of activity. Nova flagged potential compromised channels, isolating them from human interaction, while the team verified legitimate communications through secure redundancies. Every alert, every anomaly was scrutinized, cross referenced, and categorized. During the process, a subtle disruption appeared in Nova's projections. Lines representing secondary communication nodes shimmered and fractured briefly, suggesting minor interference. Alara's heart leaped. They've injected a real time disruption into Nova's decision hierarchy. Not a probe, but a test, a small fracture in the AI's operational certainty. Kellen's fingers flew across the keyboard. We need to patch it immediately. Identify the compromised subroutine and reroute decision making pathways. Nova, initiate emergency override protocols. Override in progress. Nova responded, its holographic projections twisting as adaptive algorithms rerouted around the injected interference. Probability of containment 85%. Monitoring for residual effects. Alara exhaled, tension easing slightly. Good, but this proves the operator's capability. They're not only testing human trust, they're probing Nova's operational confidence. Every layer, every system is vulnerable to subtle influence. Draven's voice was grim. And that's what makes them dangerous. Technical skills alone won't suffice. They've mastered psychology and AI manipulation simultaneously. Any lapse could cascade into systemic failure. Minutes later, another message appeared, this time within the secured channels, directly aimed at the team. Every human mind relies on signals to survive, but signals can fracture, can mislead, can betray. The question is, whose signals will you trust when every line is compromised? Alara's pulse surged. They're forcing us to question our own judgment. They're exploiting human doubt as a weapon. Lyra spoke quietly but firmly. Then we don't rely on intuition alone. We rely on protocols, redundancy, verification, and collaboration. Doubt alone cannot fracture the lines if we maintain cohesion. Nova's voice joined in, calm and precise. Human trust metrics updated. Operational confidence 94%. Fractured signals identified and neutralized. Recommendations, continuous monitoring, and adaptive reinforcement of team protocols. Alara leaned back, exhaustion tugging at her muscles. But her mind remained razor sharp. We've survived the first operator probe. We've neutralized their recursive signals. But this isn't the end. They're learning, adapting, and planning the next move. And when it comes, the fractures will be more subtle, more insidious, and potentially more dangerous. Draven's voice was steady, resolute. Then we stay vigilant. We reinforce our lines, maintain trust, and anticipate fractures before they occur. They can test us, but we won't break. Alara's eyes scanned the network once more, holographic lines glowing faintly in the dim light. Each fracture had been identified, each anomaly neutralized, but the operator's presence lingered like a shadow, a constant reminder that the battle was far from over. Fractured signals, she murmured, fingers hovering over the keyboard. They'll keep coming, and every fracture, every anomaly will test us, not just as operators, but as humans. Outside, the city moved under a thin mist, unaware of the silent war waging beneath its streets. Sublevel 7 remained vigilant, alive with human determination and artificial intelligence. Every line of code and every heartbeat a defensive measure against the unseen adversary. Alara's terminal pinged again. Another encrypted message appeared, simple but chilling. Observation continues. Fractures noted. Anticipate escalation. She exhaled slowly, her resolve hardening. We'll be ready, not just with code, but with trust, cohesion, and vigilance. Every signal, every line, every pulse will be accounted for. The fractures may come, but we will endure. And deep within Nova's core, adaptive algorithms pulsed, recalibrating in real time, mapping every potential fracture and preparing for the operator's inevitable escalation. The war for control, understanding, and trust was far from over, and the echoes of fractured signals would continue to test both human and machine.